All right. All right, so we are live. Hello, hello. I'm going to go ahead and send out all my notifications and things. I'm sorry, what? Hold up. Is Fuamoko really going live right now? Because that is just horrible timing on my part. Not that there's going to be any overlap, it's just I like to watch them. So that makes me sad. It's probably like a 30-minute heads up, though. Where is that channel? I want to... Man, that's terrible timing. All right. Let me go ahead, grab my links, do my stuff. All right. Yeah, you might see from my thumbnail, I've actually got a good backlog of kits starting up now that I gotta work my way through. This is apparently just the eternal state of all Gunpla builders, from what I can tell. It seems like just about everyone has a pile of kits, which is pretty great. And I still have more kits I want to get a hold of, so that's awesome. Like, I don't actually have... This feels insane. I don't have a single gym kit. Like, I love the gyms. You would think I would have a gym kit. I don't have a single gym kit. And that's just strange. Alright. I want to get a hold of some kind of gym. I gotta figure that out. I need a Jagan. Well, obviously I don't need any of it, but I want a Jagan. I want to get a hold of a camphor kit, a Biolant kit, and I really want some gym kits. I gotta figure out which gym I want. I want the sniper. I want the white dingo. I want to get a hold of... I really need to get a hold of this one, the ground type. Sorry, ground type, the cold district type. So I think it's the gym type D, I think it's official designation, but it's the cold district. It's the one used in the opening scenes of War in the Pocket during the Arctic base assault. I love that gym. I like its rifle. I like the machine gun. It's one of my favorites. Excuse me. Blah. Sorry about that. Yeah, so I kind of hate this. Like, you can probably hear this. So when I push the mute button on my mic here, you can hear a little click, and I don't like that. It bugs me. Of course, there's a lot of other little audio things that bother me too, but that's one of them. I'm pretty sure you can hear my mouse too. So if I come over here and mute it, like let me see, like that. I wouldn't be surprised if you can still hear that too. So anyway, let me go ahead and get my camera set back up now. Because as I may have mentioned before, I use my phone for camera too. So I'm using my phone both to send out my notifications and as my camera. So I've just got a fantastic setup here for all of this. Anyone that follows me on Twitter also got to see my my very professional camera setup too, of a tripod that is currently tilted to the side to get the angle I want, being propped up by 2 mini amps, which is just the greatest thing in my opinion. Whoops. I would like to get a proper camera, but we gotta work on that. Okay. Alright, that's good. Okay, now moment of truth for me. Hey, there it goes. Alright. Okay, cool. So that should work. Let me move that. Whoop. You would also absolutely love the way this is all set up to work. I'm not going to pan the camera over so you can see my setup, just because then I would have to fix my camera setup. So we're not doing that. But here we are. Let me go grab some stuff. So I got a couple kits I can work on. I'm probably going to be working on yeah, I think I know which one I'm going to be working on, but I've got a stack. Let's see here. What? There's a couple of the ones I'm really excited to build. Oh, that camera might need to be higher, actually. Oh, no, it'll be alright. I just have a tall stack. So, a couple of these that I'm really excited to build. I think I know which one I'm already doing today, but I have, the God Gundam? The Shining Gundam? Yeah, G Gundam kit. I didn't watch all of G Gundam, because G Gundam's silly, but I've got this one, which I was quite happy with finding. I've got a Mark II. I should get a Nemo, too, come to think of it. But I've got a Mark II. Again, I'm very excited to build that. But we've got what I want to work on today, actually. We've got a Zaku 2 F2. This one I was very happy to find, partially because of the gear it comes with. I'm very happy that he comes with, of course, the Heat Hawk, but it's got the MMP-80. It's got the Zaku machine gun. It's got the leg missiles. It's like all of my favorite pieces of Zaku gear. Particularly the MMP-80. I really like the leg missiles. So yeah, I thought that was very cool. So I have this. I'm gonna work on this a bit today. We're gonna see how far we actually managed to get, because I've got maybe like an hour, hour and a half to work with. So we'll see how far we can get done with that. I got my clippers. Should probably consider investing in some nicer clippers too. These are decent clippers, but still. I got my hobby knife. We are going to put those back. Oh, I've also got this I need to build. This one I was saving for stream stuff too. Let me move this for a second. This is the one we're actually gonna work with, but I'm gonna do this eventually as well. I built the other one already. I built this one. I built this one for myself. This was my first 30-minute Sisters kit I built. And I have this one and one other floating around that I gotta actually put together. So, this one I'm gonna do on stream for sure, eventually. But the other one, I'm not sure what I want to do for that. There we go. But yeah, we're starting with an F2. So, you know what? I probably should have gotten myself more desk space, actually. But that's fine. We're gonna have to deal with what I've got. Okay, I really should have had more desk space, actually. Alright. Yo, hello. Looper? Is that what I should go with? Usernames confuse me. But hi, how are you doing? It's good to see someone show up. I think you're the only person in chat right now. Looper, awesome. Okay. So we're doing Gunpla. I think you saw the box already, right? I'm also glad I'm not muted. I have this secret fear of hearing myself and nobody else hearing me. So far, I haven't actually done that yet, though. Let's see. Alright. So, we're gonna go ahead and get into this. Oh, look, it's gym! It's a gym! I was just saying I need gym kits. Cool, cool. You get... So these are all... Yeah, so this is from Stardust Memories. I haven't seen Stardust Memories yet. That's... Yeah, that's a failing on my part. I need to get to Stardust Memories. I've heard very mixed things about Stardust Memories, from people saying it's their favorite series to people saying it's terrible. And from my understanding, the problem comes from it's a great script that went through like 3 different directors and it's a mess as a result. But I haven't seen it. But yeah, all these little guys down here are all... Those are all other Stardust Memories kits. That's the... I think that's the powered gym, I want to say. I'm not completely sure. GPO 1. Dom Tropin looks like. That's another Dom Tropin variant. And I can't read all that, so I'm not quite sure what it says. Actually, I need that open. What am I doing? Alright, we're gonna start... Where does it start? Oh, that's interesting. I would like to hear that, actually. That sounds cool. I'm always down for checking out other music and whatnot. What is step? There is step one. I found it. Cool. There we go. But yeah, Stardust Memories, the series 0083 Stardust Memories is one of the Gundam OVAs. Takes place in... Well, okay, actually, I haven't seen it, so I shouldn't actually say that, because 0080, I could say 0080 takes place in 0080, but I'd be wrong. It takes place in 0079. 0080 ends at the turn of the decade. So it ends on New Year's. The very last shot we get is of the new year, because the 1-year war ends. It lasts literally one full year, which is why they call it the 1-year war. It ends at the turn of the decade. So turn from 0079 into 0080. And so 0080 ends with the end of the war as well. 0080 is fantastic. And I don't have any of the kits from it because I don't have my camphor or my Cold District type gym, which I want to, and a High God. I want to get one of those too because the High God's great. Jim Sniper also originally appeared in there. The Gun Cannon MPT. Just a lot of absolutely phenomenal suit designs come from 0080. Stardust Memories, though, takes place a little later on, and I don't actually know that much about it because I haven't seen it yet. So I'm over here thinking I'm going to explain some of it, and I don't know what I'm talking about. But I need to fix that. Alright, so we're going to start off here with the chest piece, looks like. I got to find my runners. Yeah, I really do need more desk space for this, but that's fine. Gundam is cool. So Gundam is a lot. Because I think I need this runner, right? Yes, I do. Okay, so let's put that over here for now. Gundam is a lot because there's a lot of different series that all fall under the Gundam title. So Gundam starts the first series called what would you know? Gundam. What? Who would have thought? That's what I meant to say. Who would have thought? It's called Gundam. The original Mobile Suit Gundam aired in 1979, and it was actually pretty fun. It was originally a canceled series because it came out, it was sponsored by the toy company Clover, and it was actually one of 3 works that Sunrise were sponsored to make, and one of the first 3 things Sunrise ever animated, which I think is super cool considering how big Sunrise got from there. Yes, we need these pieces. So A3 and 4, which are 3 and 4, these 2 right here. But they when they made Gundam, they went into it targeting a slightly older audience. That was not the actual target audience for the toys that Clover was trying to put out, resulting in them really not selling. And if you look at the old Clover toys, honestly, I think they're really cool. But they are very much children's toys, so I understand how it didn't necessarily do all that well. But Clover was not happy with that, understandably. And they actually canceled the run early, or cut short the run, really. Where it was supposed to have... I think it was supposed to have a full 50-episode run or something like that, and they cut it down to a 42-episode run. But then later, after its cancellation, Bandai, after getting success with their model kits for the Space Battleship Yamato franchise, or series, film series, I think it's both. But with their success of the Space Battleship Yamato stuff, they went, hey, people actually want these kits and things, and this has great material for said kits. Why don't we pick up this abandoned franchise and turn it into model kits? And so they did. And it did very, very well, and that helped bring Gundam back from the dead, so to speak, which then led into Zeta getting made. But anyway, yeah, Gundam's a bit tricky because you've got the original Gundam series that has one timeline, and that's the UC timeline, and because it's a series that's been around since 79, there's a whole bunch of other stuff that's not necessarily tied to that same timeline. I still need this runner. What am I doing? I need one of these. So, like, Gundam Wing is completely unrelated to the original Gundam series. Turn A is confusing because I guess it's somehow related to all of them. I have not seen Turn A, so I'm just going based on what I'm told. We're going to trim up some of the mold lines and whatnot with this. This is probably something I should get a proper file for. But you can see I've got a little bit of a lip there from where it was attached to the runner. Which I don't like. So I'm going to trim that up with my handy dandy hobby knife. And then, like, Double O is unrelated to the original Gundam, too. I didn't like Double O, which is not a popular opinion from what I can tell. But I felt like Double O was talking down to me too much. Yeah, I've not been able to get into most of the Gundam stuff outside of UC. Because it's just, I don't know, it hasn't really drawn my interest. And I feel like a lot of the problem with a lot of it is they haven't had, the 40 plus years to build it up. The original timeline has been built up really, really well. It has a very, very well fleshed out conflict, and it helps that it was a 42 episode long run originally, right? Whereas a lot of this modern stuff, it's like it'll maybe have, 20 episodes, 24 episodes? A typical season runs 12 episodes these days. And a long season, or something that gets a second season, will typically get like 24. So the original Gundam had 42 episodes to flesh out its conflict and characters, versus modern series that have to get it all done in 12. So in that regards, I feel like a lot of the modern series kind of have it rough as a result, right? But I haven't been able to get into them just because I feel like their conflicts are not well fleshed out. Like, a lot of the time, also on top of that, I feel like a lot of the modern series are too focused on mech design. Gundam was the first of what became known as the real robot genre. It was the first mecha series to take mechs and present them in an actual semi-realistic conflict, as opposed to what was before was what is now referred to as the super robot genre, which is basically big, unrealistic superpower robots fighting crazy monsters and stuff. It's probably one of the best ways to express it. It's very Saturday morning cartoon compared to, say, like the Gundam type franchise or like Evangelion. But Evangelion's weird because it's in a weird middle ground. uh, yeah, so clippers are just for getting them off the runners. And then I've got, it's probably hard to see on cam. Let me see if the camera will focus on Uh, come on. It doesn't want to focus. I saw it trying a couple times. Okay, never mind. I want to show you. Essentially, like when I cut them off, this might also partially be because of my clippers. I bet if I had sharper clippers, they wouldn't do this. But what I end up with is a little bit of a rough spot right where the pieces detach from the runners. Yeah, the camera's not really catching it there either, but you can see a little bit of it right there where my finger's catching. So that's what I use my hobby knife for, is just filing that off. Again, this would probably be something that an actual file is better for. I just don't have any, so I use this instead. This is what I've been doing with it for years at this point, so I've just kind of gotten used to it. I also like to file down mold lines as well. I do this a lot with my Warhammer stuff too. I do this a lot with my Warhammer stuff because they've got really bad mold lines. So I come in and just file it all down. Why are they fixed on the frames? That's a really good question. Like, I don't actually know. The plastic is a little bit softer for the high grade kits specifically. High grade kits are the lowest grade that Gundam has, so they are the cheapest ones. Most of these cost me like $20. A couple of them I think cost me around 40, 30, but typically a high grade kit costs around $20 to $40 range. Honestly, it makes me feel like a surgeon sometimes, carefully going through here and taking bits off, but this is, of course, less finesse than an actual surgeon. And I don't have to worry about hurting a person. All I have to worry about is destroying my kit. But yeah, these take me a lot longer to build compared to some people because I get very particular about getting rid of mold lines and whatnot. I should really invest in some files for it too. I've been thinking about it. They sell files specifically for this. Alright, that should be good there. We got one more spot right here I gotta get rid of. That's a really nasty one too. Can't really see it. I wish I could get the camera to focus on it better, but you can see that little bit right there. Shouldn't be there. Yeah, but I'm not quite sure why kits are sold the way they are, with them still in the runners and everything. But I enjoy it. I actually like clipping them out and putting everything together. Gunpla kits are pretty nice too, because as far as model building is concerned, they're some of the easier ones to put together because they're all snap pieces. They all just snap together. Like these, once I get everything done here, they're gonna just click together. Other way. Yeah. They're just gonna click together like that. And then the pieces, these are actually the joint pieces. They're going to be clipped inside there so that it has articulation and everything. If you're doing like a lot of the airplane kits, we do have some of these as well that are like clipped together kits, but you'll actually see like we market them as such with a lot of the like model aircrafts, things like that. You'll find kits that like make it a selling point that they're like, oh, they're snap together kits. Most of those you have to actually go in with plastic glue and get all the pieces glued in place and whatnot. Plastic glue, probably like a super glue, probably works too, but you don't have to, well, you typically don't have to do that with these. Kind of depends a little bit. I've had parts that are more loose for my taste. The ground type has one, I'm trying to remember which piece it is. I don't quite remember which piece it is, but the Gundam ground type has a couple pieces on it that are looser than I'm happy with. So I went through and I glued those down so that wouldn't be an issue. There we go. That's better. I probably shouldn't be super particular about getting rid of mold lines and whatnot on the articulation pieces, because the articulation pieces are going to be concealed anyway. But this is what I do. So this is going to take me forever. As you can see, we're already 30 minutes into the stream, and I haven't put any pieces together. But this is fine. This is fine. Man, I really need to watch 0080. I would like to talk about this thing, where it came from and what happened to it. It probably blew up. Knowing how Gundam works, since this is a Zaku, this is probably just a suit that gets fielded in mass to get shot down by other characters. But I don't know, because I haven't seen it yet. It's on my list. 0080 does have a lot of really cool MS designs, though, from the GPO units to the, the Gym Custom comes from 0080. Gym Custom is a great design. I don't like it in GBO2, but it's a fantastic design. Okay, you're going to go on like that. And these are arm joints. So they want me to put them in like that. Yep. Essentially elbow sockets. There we go. This is going to fit in. So that looks like waist joint right there. That I do not have in correctly, looks like. Yeah, I don't have that in quite right. There we go. And then you are going to go like that. You do not want to go like that. There we go. See, and it just snaps together like that. Cool. Something looks off. Do I have the right pieces on here? Yeah, those are correct. What? These pieces just feel like they're sitting in a little bit odd. Okay. Okay, I got them. All right, that's better. Okay. So we got that constructed. Now we need A32 and A13. It's going to be off the same runner. So yeah, these are pretty easy to flip through as well, because as you can see, they've got on the instructions, you can kind of see, because I've got a bit of a glare. We've got numberings for each of the parts. There's a letter number. Letter is going to be associated with which runner they come off of. So like this is the A runner versus this is the D runner. And they've got numbers for each part. There we go. So like there's A3. The chest pieces we were just working with were A3 and A4. Now I need A14, 13, and 32. Which are going to be 13, 14, and 32. I got a couple other kits I've put together as well. I don't have a huge ton of them, partially because of time constraints, because it takes me a while to put things together. That's why I've got a huge pile. But budget constraints don't help either, because kits can get a little pricey. I would like some of the more expensive kits, but they typically don't get too bad. There are some Gunpla kits that get into the couple hundred range, but for the most part, they're typically more between, like, again, the high grades kind of top out at, well, it depends on the kit a little bit, but they typically top out at like $40, whereas a lot of the master grade stuff starts around there. I'm trying to remember how much. I have the real grade unicorn, and I don't remember how much I spent on that. I don't think it was that expensive, though. All things considered, I think it was still within like the $40 range. It was a while back when I bought it. That was actually my first kit I bought. Real grades are... I don't think they're the most complex grade, because I haven't built a perfect grade, so I can't speak to those. But I believe real grade are the second most complex kit. My understanding is it goes high grade to master grade to real grade. And my first kit that I put together was the real grade unicorn. So that's interesting. But that was a fun kit. That took me like a week to put together. A lot of these guys I can put together in like a day, but that one was not a day. It took like an entire day just to build one of the legs. The unicorn also, it doesn't help that it has weird transformation effects to it. So it's a lot of little tiny pieces. I'm actually scared to move that one around too, because while it has like good articulation and good joints, there are so many little tiny panels and things on that one that it makes it just... It scares me to move. It scares me to move because I'm always worried about knocking off a piece. All right, that's good. I've also got both the ground type Gundam from the 8th MS team and the SD ground type Gundam. So I've got a little chibi ground type right next to my normal ground type, and it's great. I love it. I don't normally like SD Gundam. I think they're a little silly. But I kind of love having both of those sitting right next to each other. I think that's fun. There's still a good bit of a lip on that one. But it's getting there. There we go. Lovely. Okay. That filed down really nicely. Ooh, that one I cut a little bit too deep into, looks like. Yeah. That is the risk with these. That's why I should be using a file instead. So if I'm not careful, I cut in deeper than I'm supposed to. But that's fine. It's just like battle damage or something, right? I really want to do like custom paint work and whatnot. I haven't done any of that for any of my kits yet, but I would like to. I actually have a Goof custom kit, which I can grab if you want to see it, but I've got a Goof custom kit that I have not done anything with yet, because I really want to take the time to custom paint that one and really do a lot of work on it. But I want to get an airbrush before I do that, too, so that I can actually do those really nice airbrushing effects and whatnot. Because there are just some things you can do with an airbrush that you just can't do quite the same with anything with a normal traditional paintbrush. And all I have right now are normal traditional paintbrushes. That said, that's about like a $400 investment, which is why I haven't done it yet. Because the airbrush itself is like typically around like what, $100, $200, and you're looking at spending another $200 or so for the air compressor. So that's a hefty investment. One that I will be doing eventually, but I don't know when eventually is, because that's a lot of money. I can put that money away, but it just hasn't felt like the right moment yet. It's kind of like other things have been priorities, so it's like, could I buy this? Yeah. But it just hasn't been on the top of the list. But we'll get it eventually. And then we'll sit down and take like, well, I'd say a weekend and knock that out, but in reality, it's probably going to be a little bit more than just a weekend to knock that out. If I'm going to go through and paint up all the pieces and everything. I'm really excited to do that, though. I love the Goof Custom. That's one of my favorites. The Camphor is my favorite kit suit, and that's a kit that I also plan on doing custom work on. I want to paint it up in the colors I use in GBO2. Which, if you're in my server or follow me other places, you've seen me share my GBO2 videos. Even if you haven't, like, actually watched them. You can check those on the channel here, too. It's shameless plug-in time. Yeah, you can click on my channel from here, and you can go check out. I've got them all in a playlist that should be set up. I think the oldest one is on the on the bottom. I've considered changing that, though, so the newest one is on the top of the playlist. I feel like that might be a better idea for those, because you don't need to watch those in sequential order. So I think having the newest one easier to find is probably a really good idea for those. Alright. So these click right there. Right? Yes. But yeah, GBO2 is fun. That's a good game. This is actually in there too. I don't remember how they have this one set up in the game because I don't use a lot of Zaku's actually. I use a lot of Federation machines. The Zaku's are not my main mobile suit of choice. I do like my Zaku's, but I tend to like the Gyms a little bit more. I think it's Beam Sabers. Actually, I take that back. I know it's Beam Sabers. I like having Beam Sabers. And Zaku's don't get Beam Sabers. They get cool machine guns, though. But their melee is just a little bit trickier as a result of having Heat Hawks, and I like to move in and do a lot of melee. So I just find the Federation suits suit me better than the Xeon ones. But yeah, you can see how easy these are to actually snap together. They just go together like that. That's it. So I make these a lot more complicated for myself by going through and filing things down. A lot of people can get these knocked out real quick. But because I get picky, it takes me longer. But we've got the torso built now. Now we can move on to the hip segment, looks like. Yeah, hip segment next. So let's set this aside for now. And then we're going to move on to the C runner. We were just working with A. And I got to find D, B, C. There it is. The C parts. I need 4 and 5. It seems like the main internal piece. 4, 5 is this one. Oh, you're already detached there. There we go. And then PC1. So that's this runner. This is, again, all those little joint pieces, which this is actually a more flexible plastic than the other runners. I'm going to take a look at that. You can see that's a little stiffer. These have like a rubberized consistency to them. PC1. So one of these. Also, if you're ever looking to a plastic crack, yeah, it's my plastic crack. You should see my pile. You've seen my pile, actually. You know full well my pile of plastic crack. You know the addiction. Oh, yeah, that's what I was saying, though. If you're ever looking to get into Gunpla, by the way, or really like plastic model kits in general, honestly, HGUC kits. High-grade Universal Century kits are my go-to recommendation for starting out on plastic model building because they are bigger, chunkier pieces. Like, this is a HGUC kit, right? The high-grade kits, first of all, are just very easy to build. They're simple construction. Like, you can see already, like, this chest piece here was like, what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is 6 pieces for this entire chest piece. They're not like doing things like making like the cockpit individual pieces and having that open up. No, it's just 6 pieces. It's really simple, straightforward. It's easy to put together, easy to build. It's meatier construction, so you don't have to worry about if you've got like thicker fingers. Like, if you've got really thick fingers, you probably want to stick to master grade kits because they make them bigger. Even though they're a little more complex, they're just bigger kits. A little more expensive too, though. But they're like, they typically run 20 to 30 bucks. Actually, they've kind of been going up in price lately, I've noticed. So they're really like 30 to 40 now. But again, they're typically running 20 to 30 bucks. 20 to 40 bucks, excuse me. They're meatier pieces. So they're a little easier to handle, a little sturdier. Simple construction, and specifically the UC kits, because Universal Century has the bulkier mobile suit designs. I could show you stuff from, say, Iron-Blooded Orphans, where they've got these really, really tiny waists, and I have an Iron-Blooded Orphans kit. It's actually one I got from somebody pre-built, so it's not one I built myself. It's the Grays. The Grays is one of the grunt mobile suits, or I guess the lower end mobile suits is more accurate. The thing falls apart constantly because it's a whole bunch of really, really tiny, spindly pieces. Same issue with, say, Double O kits. Double O kits, from what I've seen, they've got all these tiny little spindly pieces and they like to fall apart. I'm really worried about the aerial over here. Let me grab this box just real quick, because I clicked something. Whoops. Where'd my mouse go? There we go. Okay. Ariel from that one I didn't watch and don't actually like. Witch from Mercury. Look at this thing. You see this segment right here? See this tiny little little waist segment? This more slender frame? I'm actually really worried about this for the same reason I dislike the Iron-Blooded Orphans kits. They're spindly. And so, especially with these being the cheaper line, those spindly bits have a habit of just being looser fits and falling apart. And I'm not as big of a fan of that. Now, this isn't as bad. This is not anywhere near as bad as Iron-Blooded Orphan kits. As much as I love Iron-Blooded Orphan's mech design, the waist segments are one thing that I neither understood from a design perspective nor think works well for high-grade kits. It's probably fine on more expensive kits, but specifically the high-grade kits, they have a habit of falling apart. But these guys, because of their chunkier build, they stick together really well, and they're really simple to construct. So that's my go-to recommendation for starting out in Gunpla, or really starting out in plastic models at all. Now, you still need your nippers. There's, of course, also the entry-grade kits. I actually don't recommend those, as much as they're probably fantastic starting points, because you can just punch them out of their runners and that's it. You don't need to get clippers or hobby knives, any of that stuff. You just punch them out by hand and snap them together. But that's exactly my issue with them. I think they're so simplistic to the point that they are not teaching you the skills that you're going to need to engage with the rest of the hobby. I feel like they're like one-time purchases for kids who are never actually going to get into the hobby. That's what I feel about the entry-grade kits. I have one, by the way. And I did punch it out by hand, and it hurt me so much because I refused to use this to file stuff away. I bought it with the intent of going, okay, this is how they're marketed. Let's see how well they actually work for this. And it worked. And it made me die inside because I don't like leaving mold lines and things. But yeah, they're definitely like, I guess if you want to mess with it, you want to see what it is, entry grade kits are viable. But because they don't require nippers or anything like that, I genuinely don't feel like they're preparing you for the hobby at large, and I don't think they're actually good starter kits as a result. I really think they are good, like, gimmick kits. They're good as, like, toys for children more than they are actual plastic model kits. Now, the entry grade I have, by the way, is the America Gundam. It's an RX-78 in America colors. And it was like, I think it was like a Target exclusive too, so I saw it and I went, oh, that's too good. I wish it were a high grade kit, but that's too good. I have to get it. So I do have one. I enjoy it. It looks nice on my shelf. But I recommend high grade kits over entry grade kits with the understanding that you're going to have to buy a pair of nippers. And nippers are going to run you what? Like, I'm actually not sure what nippers run. I think these cost me like $30. I don't remember though because that was forever ago. And these are specifically, these are actually, right? Yes, these are Games Workshop branded ones, if I remember correctly. I don't actually have Games Workshop branding on that. Yeah, it is. It's right there. It's Citadel. Yep. These are the Game Workshop nippers. So these are probably overpriced nippers. I got these ages ago when I first started in. Wasn't Warhammer. It was the Lord of the Rings game. It was Games Workshop's Lord of the Rings tabletop game, is where I first started with models and whatnot. I got into that over 40K for a lot of reasons, but actually looking back on it too, the funny thing is I actually prefer. Whoops. This goes up. I do actually prefer Games Workshop's Lord of the Rings game over. Whoops, you're not in there correctly. Oh no. Oh no. It's also another good reason to have a hobby knife on hand. Sometimes you need something a little bit smaller to help pry out parts that you foolishly put on wrong. Okay. There we go. That's better. Yeah, I prefer the Lord of the Rings game. Because, quite simply put, I don't understand why in Warhammer 40K there's no climbing rules. Why are there no climbing rules if I am commanding Space Marines who are wearing several tons of armor? That was a satisfying click. They're running around with several tons of armor, running around on buildings that are half bombarded. Like every single purchasable piece of terrain is terrain that has been shelled and bombarded and is falling apart. And these guys are running around in several tons of armor, and yet they can just climb up with movement. It's full movement upward. That's it. That's the full extent of any sort of rules involving going up and down on terrain. I don't think it makes sense. I don't think it makes any sense at all. I would prefer to be rolling to see if I can even climb up structures or not, and having it play into terrain advantage and stuff like that. The Lord of the Rings game has all of that. The Lord of the Rings game, it has swimming rules, it has rules for blowing up walls, which is something I don't remember seeing in 40K. Maybe I just missed it. It's got all sorts of crazy stuff. It's got rules for large scale combat and breaking into smaller skirmishes, rules for like defending a wall. It's fantastic. And it gets overlooked because the models aren't as nice. Like, quite bluntly speaking, the models they do for their Lord of the Rings game are nowhere near as nice. Like, not even comparably as nice as what they do for 40K. Also, I don't know what they're doing right now actually, but they were pushing the Hobbit stuff really hard because that movie trilogy came out. So on their website, instead of having The Lord of the Rings, they were pushing like The Hobbit for everything, and I hated it. I do not like the designs they did for The Hobbit. I much prefer the original Lord of the Rings models. I don't think I don't like the Hobbit dwarves. I don't think they look right. I think they look weird. I think they look too fantasy, which I realize sounds crazy considering that like Tolkien is the grandfather of high fantasy as we know it. but his stuff is largely based off of Anglo-Saxon folklore and tradition with some like Celtic thrown in there. It's a lot of old. um I don't know, man. It's also got rules for siege towers and blowing up said wall. So I think he would have strong opinions of both sides of the rules. It's genuinely great. Like there are rules in there for full-on sieges, which is something that I haven't seen out of Warhammer, either 40k or fantasy. Also boat combat, because there's a scene where orcs raid Osgiliath from boats, so they decided they needed to make sure there were rules for that. I'm pretty sure that's exactly why they're there. See, I like strategy games. I never got too into um, RTSs, more because a lot of RTSs tend to be very complicated and you have to learn them on the fly, and I just didn't really have time for that, rather than a dislike for the actual systems themselves. Like, I had. Which one was it? I have one of the Dawn of War games, so one of the 40k RTSs. It's the one that I believe first introduced Sisters of Battle into the Dawn of War franchise. I really don't remember which one it was, though, unfortunately. I still have it, or I should still have it anyway. So I should scroll through my Steam library and see if I can find it. But, it was really, really complicated. And there were things like, in order to build one structure you needed to get one unit, you had to build a different structure, but you had to build the other structure to a certain point, and then the other structure allows you to then upgrade the other structure, and it's like, I've never played this before, and there's no user's manual. So I have no idea what I'm doing, and I just don't have the time to learn this. Which, again, is unfortunate, because the game was fun. Now, that's Command and Conquer, right? I have not played any of those, but I want to play, what is it, the Red Alert games, because they look funny. These go in here. Yeah, Command and Conquer. What is it? Red Alert 3? I think was the one I was looking at. That has like. It's like alternate history where. What is it? The Soviets go back in time and do something, and I don't remember what it was they do, but they like kill someone or something to change the future of the war, and somehow that makes Imperial Japan have mechs during the Cold War. That looked enjoyable. But I have not played any of those games. I want to play. I wish I could remember what it's called. I think it's. Man, I don't remember what it's called. I want to say it's like Iron Harvest or something like that, which is. Yeah, cool. I thought that was Command and Conquer. Cool, cool. It's yeah, Red Alert looks fun. It's also the one where you get. Oh, I don't remember his name. Why do I not remember his name? It's the guy who plays the clerk in Home Alone 2 and a whole bunch of other stuff. But I can never remember his name. Also, he's Long John Silver in Muppet Treasure Island. And I always feel bad when I can't remember his name because it's a name I feel like I should remember, but I can't. But he plays one of the Soviets, and it's great. And this doesn't want to go on. Ow. Yeah, I know I just explained how these are like great entry kits, and then I'm struggling to get pieces to click together. Don't worry about it. This one's just being a bit of a pain. There we go, though. Also, I'm a bit picky. That doesn't help either. I like my parts to be flush like they're supposed to. Actually, that's probably not being picky. Huh. OST is good. I like a good OST, so that's good to know. Yeah, I'll have to look into the Command and Conquer games a little bit. Let me think. What are other RTSs? Oh, what was it called? StarCraft. I need to play StarCraft. I need to do Warcraft too. Cossacks. Sorry, Cossacks. I don't know that one actually. I don't think I've ever heard of it. What do we got now? C9, 2, and 8. Oh, this one. 9, 8, and 2. There we go. Pretty old and pretty fun. His own map and scenario editor. Ooh, that's actually super cool. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look into that because that's actually awesome. Also, FYI, I have no issue playing older games. So if you've got older games you like I still play. Okay, actually, I don't still play my Nintendo 64, but that's only because it doesn't read cartridges properly. I would still be playing my Nintendo 64 if it did. Some of my favorite fighting games are on my Dreamcast. So if I still had an S, I'd still be playing that too. So older stuff, that is A-okay with me. One of my favorite games that I actually haven't played, but don't worry about that, is X-Wing. Because, man, they have never made old simulators the same again. PC and PS1? Yeah, PC, old school PC and PS1 games are phenomenal. No Nintendo consoles. That's kind of sad. Kind of sad. I'm in a weird state where like I feel like you're missing out on a lot because of it, and I also don't at the same time. I don't know. It's more a matter of taste than anything really. Like Nintendo has always had their particular flavor that has always been their thing. Back when Epic was a game studio and not cringe. Unfortunately, I have to agree with you on that. Although I will admit, and admit with shame, I've been enjoying Fortnite recently. I started playing a couple days ago, and I'm already at Battle Pass level 90. Mind you, that's because they've got boosted XP right now. Because it's running late. I actually like that they do this. So apparently they do this when it's later on in the Battle Pass. They boost XP gains so that people joining in later or who don't get to play as much can still get everything from the Battle Pass. And as a player who joined later, I'm like, I love this. And to also see what you're doing from a marketing side and think it's really clever because now it still rewards buying the Battle Pass late. Which means more people are going to be buying the Battle Pass. Yeah, Epic, I didn't. Am I remembering this right? Did Epic? Epic did Gears of War as well, right? Or am I misremembering that? Because I really miss when they were developers first as well. I know they did. Epic does Unreal as well, so I guess they did the Unreal Tournament games too. And oh boy, Unreal Tournament was amazing back in the day. Weirdly enough, I have it on Dreamcast. Yeah, Gears of War used to be great. I haven't played So I've only played the first two Gears of War games. They've been didn't really appeal to me much outside of that. Unreal, yeah. So the engine is still okay, but man, I miss Unreal Tournament. But yeah, Gears, I've just played the first two. I love the first two. I never played the later ones because really, like, I don't have the money to buy all those games. That's really the reason why. I don't mind playing, like, one of the later ones or two of the later ones if they're, like, really good compared to one and two, but I love two, and I think they peaked at that. Oh, cool. I'm gonna have to look into that then. So I forget if I just said this or not, but I had Unreal Tournament on Dreamcast, which is probably the weirdest place to have it. I'm trying to remember which. So I have the first Quake, and I think the first Quake is phenomenal. I cannot remember which other one. I think I did play some of Quake 3 Arena. I did prefer Unreal Tournament over it, but once again, I also had them on Dreamcast where I was playing by myself. It's been a little bit, so I don't remember the soundtrack super well. I'm gonna have to look back into that and break that out again, maybe, because that is a fantastic game. I remember its mechanics more than anything else, and by mechanics I mean blowing people up after they die and watching the chunks bounce around the map. Also, dual wielding pistols. I dual wielded pistols a lot. No idea if it's actually viable because I wasn't playing online or anything like that. But I would not mind fixing that. If the game's still alive and well, I absolutely don't mind fixing that. That actually makes me really happy to hear. I like to hear of older games still existing, so to speak. Okay, let's see. So, like that, yep. Man, I don't remember. I guess that would have been middle school for me too, actually. I was homeschooled, so I don't really know what things were. Huh. So I'm learning things about soundtrack right now. That's awesome. What exactly is the demo scene? I don't quite recognize that. Not quite sure what that means. There we go. I'm a little bit worried about these falling out with movement. Because those are clearly supposed to move, but I'm noticing they like to pop out a little bit when they do. That's cool, though. Alright. Well, demo demo scene. It's a computer art subculture that produces audio visual presentation programs. Huh, neat. That sounds cool. Admittedly, I don't know. Music clip generated by code. That's interesting. I'm going to have to look into that more. Alright. That's a big chunk of the skirt armor done. Let me see. Now we go back to the A runners. My coffee has long since gone cold, but that's fine. May 22, 23. Oh, these pieces are scaring me a bit. A lot of the video game OST artists were involved into that subculture as coders and then became artists themselves. That's cool. I think I have to admit that I don't know a huge ton about different music subcultures. I like music, I like different musical concepts and whatnot, but I'm not super learned in all that. So that's always really interesting to me. All right. See, I know chiptune. That's something I do know. Chiptune have starred from the demo scene. I didn't know that evolved from the demo scene though. I think that's really interesting. Chiptune is fun though. I've been meaning to look into that myself because I would like to get into composing a bit. I don't know how much I could actually do composing, right? Because I'm not the most learned in um, musical stuff. Initially, it was objective was to push the boundaries of old hardware. By also retaining small size of the program, but with time and better hardware, people stopped seeking for pushing boundaries. Instead, people now focus on direction and art. Yeah, that makes sense. It's harder to push. I feel like, how do I put it? Now with newer hardware, I feel like it's a lot harder to push the boundaries of what that hardware can do. With a lot of this kind of stuff, it's just it can do a lot. It's more, how do I put it? It's more so like graphics processing, I guess, that is like where the limits of the hardware are at right now. And right now, I feel like even that is like graphics processing on modern machines is so good that game developers need to stop worrying about it because being groundbreaking doesn't matter anymore. But that's a completely different genre of issues. That's game development rather than composition and whatnot. This piece is gonna be interesting. So that goes up. So this is gonna bend up like that. Oh, that terrifies me. that that makes me uncomfy. Yeah, absolutely. I would be glad to have some examples. I'll go ahead and take a look at those later. So you can either wait till I stop, or you can go ahead and just drop them now, and I'll see them later. Either way, um, either or, whatever you'd prefer to do. If you think you'd forget, go ahead and drop them, and I'll go ahead and take a listen to them or take a look at them once. Oh, I forgot a piece. Once I'm done here. So this is probably gonna. This might sound a little bit silly, but I'm kind of glad. Um, I know like a lot of people in the server are there from Clipsy's channel, so I'm kind of glad that you recognized it as mine as well. I feel like I've been trying to be active, so it shouldn't surprise me, but like specifically because people came through her, I can understand not necessarily recognizing that. Also, she's better established in everything than I am anyway. It's for a lot of reasons. She's had more of a media presence than I have, even before starting up the channel. I got to work with her on getting more stuff, more of her on the channel as well, though. It's been a little tricky lately due to a whole bunch of other factors, though. But we should be able to do more collaborative work coming up soon that I am looking forward to. And that will ideally be up on this channel rather than her personal channel, like all the art stuff is. So, but we got to sit down and figure out what we actually want to do. We've got a whole bunch of Oh wait, my phone's not plugged in. Give me a second. Got this all set up, and I forgot to plug it in. My phone's doubling as my camera, as I think I mentioned before. So I gotta make sure it's not dying on me, which it was. Whoops. All right, back to this. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so we've got a whole bunch of Cuphead stuff recorded that we need to sit through, edit together, and upload. And I'm excited to get that out. I've been holding off on Cuphead so that I could do it as a channel project. Cuphead's phenomenal. What an absolutely great game. That is like peak artistry in gaming, in my opinion. Like Cuphead has such an intense um like focus on representing that classic cartoon art style and animation style down to even like the filter put on top of everything. It is so phenomenal. Everything looks correct. It looks like it was animated back in the day. It looks like it was animated back in Technicolor era. Oh, it's so wonderful. And, to say something like, you don't get that from game design anymore would be an absolutely nonsense statement to say because you never got that in game design. That is above and beyond what has ever been standard in game design, and I love it. Absolutely love it. All right, that's the piping. You sent some prime examples. Fantastic. I can't wait to take a look at that. I should have some time once I'm done stream. I've got other stuff to do after stream, but it should be later, so long as I end before, like, Oh, wow, it's been like an hour and a half already. So I actually got to end soon. Wow. We're going to finish this segment first, and then... Yeah, so let's try and get down to step 6. We're right... Oh, whoops. I was supposed to put another piece on with this. Yeah, I didn't even notice. You got me talking. You got me talking and I lost track of everything. Okay, this was supposed to have another piece that went on underneath it. I messed up there. So this piece right here, it's the last piece of the... No, it's not. It's the second to last piece of the Sea Runner. Yeah, we got him talking. Yes, we did. You get me talking and I can get going. It can be tricky sometimes because I have a set of topics that I can talk about for hours, and then everything else I will say like, oh yeah, oh that's cool, neat. So did you hear about Gundam? It's not out of a disinterest either. It's a lack of stuff to talk about, I think is the best way to put it. I can listen to somebody else talk forever about a particular topic I know less about, but unless I have something I feel like I can contribute, I just don't have much to say. But Gundam is one of those topics. Yeah, Eclipsy can confirm. This is how I talk. Gundam is one of the... Funny enough, Genshin Impact is another one of these topics. Not because it's like my favorite thing or a special interest or anything. No, Genshin has just such a wide variety of issues and interesting things about it. From like little details. I mean, there's like interesting cultural things you can talk about with parts of it, as well as like horrible game issues it has versus like things they've done to resolve some of those issues in recent updates. Recent updates have been great, by the way. It might be great in like little portions, but it's still, they've been doing a lot to up the game's, well, just playability, quite frankly. It's been great. Although I wandered into like a monster on the open world that had a name and way too much health, and it's like, on one hand, I kind of appreciate that I just seem to wander into a random boss monster with no context and no story behind it and no like side quest. No, just wandered across a random boss level monster that I'm not going to aggressively grind for parts. On the other hand, it took way too long to kill. And as I said, like, there are things that I can just talk about. That was really cool. I did that one on stream, actually. I wandered into it on a stream in the past. I've been meaning to upload a, like, short of me fighting it. And I have not edited that together yet, which I really need to get to. But anyway, we're going to go ahead, finish up. We're going to get to step 6 here, and then wrap it up at that point, which is going to be the whole torso section done. So this goes on like so. Like so. Like so. Right? I think that's right. Yeah, that's right. Is that supposed to click in place, or? Well, we'll figure it out. It's upside down, isn't it? Yeah, that explains everything. It's upside down. I swear I'm normally much better at this. They're really cut and dry and right in front of me. There we go. That's why it felt weird. Like, it's not like these are set up to be the most simple model kits you could ever build or anything. There we go. And that's why that sits on the way it does. It's for articulation reasons. So I remember it was Rob. I think I've talked about him in my GBO2 videos before, but Rob from Flailthroughs, who was the first channel I bumped into who did GBO2 content. He's talked about skirt armor on kits and action figures and stuff before, talking about how he prefers the designs that don't have the skirt armor because the skirt armor gets in the way of articulation. And I understand and agree with that, but also my opinion on skirt armor is that the majority of mobile suits should have them in the first place because, I mean, it's there to protect the joints. So it just makes sense to not have it is to allow small things like handheld rockets or anti-material rifles to be able to interfere with the operation of the mobile suits. The joints on these things, part of why mechs are inherently, yeah, I would say inherently unrealistic, are because the joints are just too complicated. It's such an easy thing to mess up that it makes it not super practical as an actual military weapon. Now, I do think there are some advantages to a mech concept. See a different letter? D. I don't think so. Yes, it is. Right over there. I'm dumb. I was just looking at it before. Anyways, I do think there are some benefits of a mech over, like, say, a tank. Because one thing I think gets overlooked in that argument is that a mech can stabilize in a way a tank can't. So basically, a lot of the argument is like, oh, well, a mech is more mobile because they can walk over stuff. But then you look at it and it's like, well, tank treads are actually designed to move over a lot of that exact same terrain. That's why they use treads. And also, the mech is just more complicated because now you have to factor into weird balancing stuff and making it walk and whatnot as opposed to just rolling. So actually, it's not much more mobile at all, and it just has more complications to worry about. But what gets overlooked, I think, in that argument is that with a mech, has the ability to stabilize itself in ways a tank can't. If a tank is like on top of like a rocky location, a tank can't necessarily shoot its gun because it has to deal with that recoil and whatnot, right? It has to have a firm positioning to be able to attack. A mech doesn't, because a mech has the advantage of being able to use its legs to stabilize itself because you can have them set at different heights and whatnot, exactly the same way a human would, to be able to take shots from awkward positioning. And I think that's like the one thing a mech has over a real soldier. Or, sorry, over a tank. But yeah, that's How important that argument is, I guess, depends on how cool you think a mech is, in all honesty. Because mechs don't have to be realistic, really. That is to a certain degree why, though, I think there is a certain degree of nonsense that I think is acceptable within a mech series in terms of the designs. If you're trying to write a more realistic mech series, you of course want the form to still matter, or the function to matter, excuse me. Which is why I like a lot of the UC suits, because I think a lot of the UC suits, we can see a clear, there is an emphasis on form, of course. Like, the entire reason the head unit is designed the way it is on a Zaku is to reference gas masks. Specifically, yeah, it's to reference gas masks, right? It's designed to look a lot like a World War One, World War II soldier in its silhouette, right? But even within that, we can see a certain degree of the function of all these parts. We can understand like why certain parts of this are thicker than others, the ways that certain armor is designed or angled, like why certain weapons are fixed the way they are. Even things like the heat hawk makes a certain degree of sense when you look at the manner in which these things fight. There is certainly a style to it. There is a form element to it, but the function is present. But I feel like because mechs are already fairly unrealistic, a certain degree of form is acceptable over a certain degree of function. Like, when you sit there and argue things like, oh, well, the Titanfall mechs just look more like something a military would actually field, right? Because I've seen that argument too, right? Well, no, they don't because they're mechs. A military wouldn't field that in the first place. Not to say I dislike the mech designs from Titanfall. I love the mech design from Titanfall. It's just, I think it's a different style. And I don't think one is more or less valid than the other. I just think it's a different style. And I think the different style appeals to different people differently. Both appeal to me personally. I think where that goes out the window is when you've got Super Robot. Things like the Gurren Lagann, you can't try and justify that with any sort of explanation if you're looking at that from a realistic perspective. You just can't. That's ridiculous. Nor does the series itself try to, which is why that firmly sits itself in Super Robot. That is entirely form over function. There's no functional aspect of that, or like really anything else Trigger animates. Trigger has made a name for themselves. Sorry, that wasn't Trigger technically. I believe a lot of the people who worked on that later formed Trigger, if I remember correctly, but that was actually Gynax. And I keep making that mistake because a lot of what Trigger does is very much cemented on a lot of that same form we saw with stuff like Gurren Lagann. Now, I do have to look into that and see if I'm right about that. I believe it went like the people who worked on that formed Trigger later, but I might be mistaken about that. What I do know is that that was a Gynax series, and I keep saying it's a Trigger one, and I'm wrong. It's a good series, though. I didn't finish it. I need to fix that. Something I've heard people talk about is apparently Trigger has a habit of ending things poorly. But I haven't finished, I think, a single thing they made, so I need to fix that. That's a me issue. So I need to finish Kill la Kill. What else did Trigger make? I need to watch Promare. I'm gonna say some heresy as far as like the anime community is concerned. Oh, Darling in the Franxx, that was another one. I actually think Trigger's overrated because they've made one series about a dozen times. And is it a good series? I mean, it's not bad for sure, but they have kind of made the exact same series about a dozen times. I don't know if you've noticed this if you watch anime, but like their style and thematic elements are all exactly the same in everything they make. And they can do more. And it makes me really sad that they don't, but they just don't. Well, the thing is, it's what people expect from them, so they keep doing it. What I think is fascinating, though, is if you watch Star Wars Visions, and I'm going to double check that as I double check it every single time, but in Star Wars Visions, Trigger animated two different things in that series of shorts. They did both the twins, which was part of what they used to market Visions, because it was Trigger, and the twins is just, it's Trigger doing Trigger. That's all it is. It is Trigger doing their thing with the bright colors, the really over-exaggerated nonsense, all that stuff. It is what people expect Trigger to make. And then they also did The Elder, which looks like modern 80s style anime art style. Which, for those who watch anime, I hope you recognize what I mean by that. That's like what Sunrise does when they do modern UC stuff a lot of the times. There's certain stylistic elements we see out of particularly 80s anime, like rounded noses instead of sharp, pointy ones. You see that starting to come into prominence in the 90s, more so than the 70s or 80s. The sharp noses, I mean, right? So we see stuff like that in the ninth. Sorry, not the Ninth Jedi. That's my favorite one. Is the Ninth Jedi, but The Elder, we see a lot of those elements that I see from like when Sunrise does a modern version of something that's either a continuation or a direct recreation of something from like the 70s or 80s in The Elder, and it was a Studio Trigger work. And I have never seen Studio Trigger do anything other than their super over the top, fancy, colorful, bright, ridiculous, everything over exaggerated, unrealistic style. So I know they can do a lot more than that, and I would love to see it, but everyone just expects to see that same style. I would have loved to see the style that they used for The Elder used with Edge Runners, for instance. A little different, I think, because I think Cyberpunk needs a little bit of flair. But Cyberpunk doesn't need that much flair. That's something I might get in trouble for saying, but I don't think that Trigger was the best studio for a Cyberpunk adaptation. I've been saying that since that came out, and it's something I expect people to get upset at me saying. Let me rephrase that. I know it's something people could get upset at me saying because I've seen them get upset when I say it. But Trigger was not the people to go for Cyberpunk. I think Edge Runners is fantastic. I think Edge Runners is better than what 2077 did. I think they nailed the feel of Night City. I feel like they nailed the cyberpunk, like the genre of cyberpunk. I think they nailed that sort of the callousness of it all. The complete lethargic, callous, uncaring nature of a cyberpunk setting is fully on display in that series, and it's brilliant. But Trigger is too bright for cyberpunk. Trigger is too flashy for cyberpunk. I honestly don't think cyberpunk is a genre that works outside of the 70s, 80s when it first started coming around. It just doesn't. For both reasons of visual flair, because we like things way too flashy now, but also because we understand how technology works too much. A lot of cyberpunk stuff, it was all based around technologies that were new or non existent at the time. Stuff that we really didn't understand yet. And now we understand it. So things like the Matrix don't make sense anymore. Because we have more complex stuff than a lot of what shows up in cyberpunk works. But if you try to update that, you lose the cyberpunk aesthetic. And cyberpunk is a genre that lives by aesthetic more than anything else. I do have a bit of a disagreement with the things that were said, even by creators of the genre back in the day, of it being style over substance, because I think cyberpunk has substance within its style. But the style is still very, very important. So I just don't think it works in the modern era. That said, I bought Cyberpunk Red recently. So I have that now, and I need to read through the book and find a crew to run with. I'm kind of excited for that, but I'd also prefer to be playing Cyberpunk 2020 because Red is apparently streamlined, and so far I have not enjoyed, or I have enjoyed more every single pre-streamlined version of any RPG I've ever played. All right, see ya, Looper. Worms is great. Worms is phenomenal, so have fun. And I hope you enjoyed my cyberpunk rant. Oof, I'm losing my entire viewer base. I guess it really is time to wrap up. It's okay, we're almost done here. I would probably be done if I spent less time ranting about cyberpunk. Here we go. Okay, we've literally got just like 4 pieces left to go. 9. Where is 9? There is 9. And 2 of these. I don't think I don't think that's correct. I actually think people leave more quickly when streamers don't talk. I need the D runner. Oh, that's why there's 2. They're literally identical runners. I saw that earlier and it confused me. They're identical runners. That's why there's 2. That makes sense. Oh, and I see there's a missile pod on each. Awesome. That also means I get 2 drums for the machine gun. Cool, cool. I need which piece? Is it 2? It is 2. Awesome. Alright, well, I'll see Clipsy. It's been good, and I will have fun with the last 2 pieces. Yeah, this will be it for today because my entire viewer base is leaving anyway. And I gotta wrap up anyway for my own stuff. Everybody ran away when I started talking about cyberpunk. I guess it really is one of the most hated genres in fiction. That's actually steampunk, by the way. I think cyberpunk actually is coming back into popularity because of, well, cyberpunk. I also can't help but feel like people are being drawn to it because people feel like we're entering, like we're seeing a lot of the same stuff we see from those pieces of fiction, which lead people to latch on to that fiction. Which is interesting. Okay, we're almost done here. Okay, that's nice and smooth. These bits are always some of the trickier ones to file down because they're rounded. Yup. So they require more finesse than the others. The verniers. I'm quiet now. Is this better? Will I get views now? Oh, wait, I ruined it. Sorry. I wonder if I should find myself some soundtrack to put on too during these. I don't think that's an awful idea. I actually do normally listen to music anyway when I'm building. When it's just me. I'll sit with my headphones on and just work on a kit. And that is a good time. Ooh, gotta love that click. Look at that! It moves! Oh, I love Gunpla kits. That nice little click. Okay, thrusters are in. Backpack goes on the back. Who would have thought? Does this... Yes. Okay. So the pipes do go in the backpack here. Here we go. Huh. Yeah, there we go. That's going to bother me. Let me see if I can't. Good enough. All right. That is the torso completed. I gotta admit, the colors look a little bit weird without the rest of the body. But that's that for now. We'll definitely come back to this later to do more work on it. Hopefully I'll be able to finish it in one more go. It kind of depends on how complex the legs end up being, because at this point it's pretty much, well, it's not pretty much, it's just the legs, arms, weapons, head. Head is probably like just a couple pieces. Legs are probably going to be the most complex part of the build, or the most, after this, the most complex part of the build. So honestly, yeah, legs are probably going to genuinely be the most complex part of the build. But yeah, that's neat. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up there. Let me grab my mouse so that I can actually wrap it up. Oh yeah, by the way, this is also my desk where my computer is, and my mouse has to be sitting on the chair next to me for me to have all this set up to work properly. So it's great. But that'll wrap it up here. So thanks for showing up, everyone who showed up. I had a good time, and I can't wait to get this finally built and put together. We're going to have to plan out next stream for that, for sure. Maybe next week, maybe not. I'm going to have to wait till I get my schedule for next week to figure that out. But again, thanks for showing up. There's my mouse. I will see you next